Okay, now we have some more points concerning polymorphism. Let's take a look here at G. G is a parameter which is going to be of graded activity type. Now down here, I'm creating three different objects, all of graded activity. When I say objects, these are reference variables. Exam 1 will point to a final exam object. Exam 2, which is a graded activity reference variable, will point to a pass-fail activity object. Exam 3, which is a graded activity reference variable, will point to a pass-fail exam object. Now I say display grades exam 1. What's going on here? Well, take a look. Okay, G, really will be exam 1, and it's pointing to, a final exam object. But what that means is that G will only have the ability to use graded activity methods. So if you read up here, it says you can use parameters to accept arguments to methods polymorphically. So if we look at this method's parameter G is a graded activity variable, but it can be used to accept arguments of any type that inherit from graded activity. For example, the following code passes object to the final exam, pass-fail activity, and pass-fail exam classes to the method. Okay, now here's the deal though. You can only use methods associated with graded activity, for those particular, for G. And in this case, set, get score, and get grade are fine. Okay, next point. The is-a relationship, the inheritance relationship, does not work in reverse. So let's take a look here. Activity is an object of graded activity, and it's pointing to a graded activity object, obviously. So a reference variable pointing to a graded activity object. Now, final exam creates exam. Exam is a reference variable for final exam. It inherits from graded activity final exam. It's trying to assign activity to exam. Not going to work. You cannot assign the address of a graded activity object to a final exam variable. This makes sense because final exam objects have capabilities that go beyond those of graded activity object. So once again, we have activity here. It's a reference variable for graded activity. We actually create an object, a graded activity object, so now activity points to a graded activity object. Now, exam is an object of final exam, and yes, I know final exam inherits from graded activity, but we're trying to assign a graded activity object to exam. You cannot do that. And finally, there is a special operator called instance, that you can use to determine whether an object is an instance of a particular class. So take a look here. Activity is a graded activity object pointing to it's a reference variable pointing to a graded activity object. And it says if activity is an instance of graded activity. Well, this is going to be true. Because the instance of operator understands the is-a relationship exists when a class inherits. Well, I mean, activity is a graded activity object. That's an easy one. But how about this one? Final exam, exam equal new final exam. Now, does final exam inherit from graded activity? Yes. If exam is an instance of graded activity, is exam an instance of graded activity? That'll be yes. Even though the object referenced by exam is final exam object, this code will display a yes. Exam is a graded activity. The instance of operator returns true because the final exam is a subclass of graded activity. So you learned a little bit about the instance of operator. You learned a little bit about the fact that inheritance really doesn't work in reverse, and this is the example right here. And you learned a little bit about the polymorphic situation when you're using it as a parameter. So hope this helps.